Hello students, and in my today's class we are going to discuss about analytical writing. Analytical writing has been introduced by CBSE for the first time. It is very interesting form of writing, and in my today's presentation I have discussed in detail about various aspects of analytical writing. I have discussed about the format, features, important phrases, and the important points we should keep in mind while going for analytical writing. Students, CBSE has introduced writing analytical paragraph as a part of a revised curriculum under the section writing. So let's discuss what is an analytical paragraph. An analytical paragraph is a form of descriptive writing which is written on the basis of a given chart, graph, data, outline clues, table, etc. When writing an analytical paragraph, one should remember to describe the facts in the best possible manner and to cover the information provided. The analytical paragraph, students, has to be written in about 100 to 150 words. Hence, the language has to be clear and crisp. Careful use of vocabulary and selection of words is must to ensure that you are able to touch all the information given in the graph or chart or data, etc. So let's discuss the features of an analytical paragraph. It describes the given chart, table, data, graph, cues, etc. It should be brief and comprehensive. It should state facts that are provided by the chart. It is necessary to make use of simple and accurate language. It should mention figures and quantities appropriately. It is appropriate to use the same tense throughout the analytical paragraph. No personal observation or response should be provided. It should be preferable to use the passive form of the verb. Students, you must remember the word limit which is given. Hence, you must stick to the golden rule of CBSE, that is usage of simple words and simple language, and only on the information which is being provided to you. So let's discuss the format of an analytical paragraph. Students, just like the other long writing, that is your article, letters, which we have done, the basic format of the analytical paragraph also consists of three parts. The first one is introduction, the second is body of the paragraph, and the third is conclusion. So introduction, as you have already learned in case of other long writing parts, you have to explain in 1 or 2 lines the subject of the paragraph given or the graph given, the data given. Body, explain in detail what the graph is about or what the data pie chart is about. Use relevant figures, explain trends, make comparisons and contrast, divide into sub-paragraph if required. Keep in mind the word limit, children. Conclusion. Conclude the paragraph giving the overall view or the summary of the graph. So let us discuss each of this in detail. The first one is introduction. The introduction is the first paragraph that should describe in brief what the graph is about. It should be like an opening paragraph which introduces the reader to the context of the chart given. When writing the introductory paragraph, you need not go into the details because details you'll be giving in the body. You just need to mention what is clearly evident from the chart or the graph given in the question. It is best to write the introduction in 1 or 2 lines. The second point is, students, the body of the paragraph. This part of the analytical paragraph should contain details of the graph or chart given in the question. It should contain all the important information. It is extremely important to choose the significant details that should be included in the paragraph, because we have to keep in mind the word limit also. Therefore, you should be very careful with the language of the paragraph. The body can be broken into 2 or more or 3 paragraphs, sub-paragraphs, depending on the information extracted from the paragraph. Breaking the body into sub-paragraphs makes it easy for the reader to understand. Then, the next part is organizing information. This is a part of the body of the paragraph. You should look for the larger differences that are very prominent. You can mention the aspect which is the smallest or the largest in the data given. Any aspect that are similar should be mentioned next. You should further mention about the aspect that has remained unchanged or constant throughout. Next, we talk about comparing information. If the chart mentions 2 different parties, for example, men and women, refer to both of them in the analytical paragraph. If there is any contrast or comparison, that should be drawn. You must present it effectively. If the chart is about a particular time period or highlights trends of several years, mention about each year in a concise manner. If any comparison or contrast can be done for 2 or more years, you should write about it too. The next point, mentioning quantities. When including numbers and figures, the accuracy is must. There are a number of ways that can be used to describe quantities, for example, in the form of percentage, fractions, ratios, etc. Fourth point, connecting sentences. If different information or ideas are there, you should use connectors or linking phrases to link them logically. The sentences of the paragraph should be sequential and connected rationally. Now we are going to discuss the conclusion. The last paragraph should summarize the idea mentioned and the information in general. It should be concluding in nature and act as a closing statement. One should keep in mind that one must not include any personal opinions, conclusions or observations. You should simply stick to the facts. Students, that is what is analytical writing. This, in fact, is nothing but analysis of the chart, the graph, of the table, of the clues or cues given to you. You need not dispose of the information to write a good analytical paragraph. The key is to choose wisely the important information, then organize it and state correct facts and summarize it properly. So here are a few useful tips for writing an analytical paragraph. So for introduction, students, you can start with the following phrases, like the chart given above describes or below describes, the table suggests, the line graph shows, the data given provides information about, the pie chart illustrates, etc. Okay? These are just a few guidelines. You may use your own phrases also to start the introductory paragraph. Then for describing trends, use phrases and words like pattern of growth, rapidly doubled, skyrocketed, striking increase, peaked. Then we have soaring rates, declined, plummeted, leveled off, stagnated, fluctuate, starting to rise, starting to fall, drop down, slightly, etc. Then for describing the quantities, use various styles like percentage form, then fractional forms like 1/3 of, nearly 1/4 of, then almost 80%, majority, on an average, twice as much. Then we have almost equal, the highest, the lowest, very close to any figure, or like it is given over here, very close to 2%, then roughly, approximately, then just under 3%, etc. Okay, these are for the quantities, that is your numerical descriptions. For establishing relationship or contrast, use phrases and words like relationship between, similarly, in contrast with, in comparison to, but in the opposite case, however, whereas, when it comes to, as opposed to, while striking difference, noticeably or noticeable difference, etc. For conclusion and other connecting phrases, use overall, subsequently, in all, in a nutshell, for the chart given, in short, striking changes, including, therefore, etc. Students, these are just a few examples I've given you. You may also use your own phrases. So now we come down to analytical paragraphs, examples and samples. So in the slides to come, I have given few questions. I have given, I think, 6 questions in total, along with the chart, along with the graph and the answers. So this is going to help you a lot. Go through the questions and try to analyze the graph or the chart which is given, based on which the question is framed. Then students, try to frame your own answers and then go through the answers which are given in this presentation. You may go through the answers for question number 1 and 2, or at the most 3 also. But later on, I want that first you read the question, go through the graph or the information given to you, form your answers, and then try to check my answers. So that way you will come to know how close you have come on how to write a good analytical paragraph. So you see, students, question number 1. Below is a graph giving or showing birth and death rates in a country from 1901 to 2101. Write an analytical paragraph in about 100 to 150 words. So you see, there are a gray graph, or the line is showing the rate of death, and the black line is showing you the rate of, or the birth rate. Okay, so we find, if you analyze, that 1901 the death rate was lesser than that of birth rate was higher, and then we find that the rate of birth or birth rate was at its peak in approximately 1961. Okay, so 1961, and then we can say 1971 there was a dip again. Then we find that towards 1980s again there was an increase, and there's a sharp decrease in 1981, and then around 2000 again it shows a peak, it goes increases, and again it comes down, and then it shows a downward trend, and then I think it is by 2101 they find that the rate of birth in this particular country will be lower than the rate of death. Okay, so similarly, if we analyze the death rate, we find there is the curve for death rate shows increase. Okay, so till from 1901 till 2001 we find there are waves, ups and down, ups and down, and ups and downs. In 1921, before the year 1921, there is a sharp increase in the death rate, and after that we find there is ups and downs, ups and downs, and ups and downs. And then towards 2001, if you see, students, there is a steady increase. There is a steady increase in the rate of death till we have 2061. They are predicting this. Okay, and after 2061 we find a slight dip, and then more or less we find that it is stagnant. Okay, it's a stagnant, and towards 2101 there is a downward fall in the death rate also, isn't it? So that is how we have to analyze the graph. That is how we have done the analysis of the graph. Now whatever analysis I have done, I have to put my analysis into words. Okay, so let's see. The next slide shows the answer. So see students, as I told you, I'll just read out the answer for you. The graph shows birth and death rates starting from 1901 till 2101. Since 1901, the birth rate has remained more than the death rate until 2041. Birth rate was 20,000 in 1901 and started increasing gradually. It peaked in 1961 to about 65,000. From 1961, birth rate has fluctuated multiple times between 50,000 to 60,000. It is expected to decline for the coming years, reaching approximately 42,000 by 2101. On the other hand, the death rate stood at around 10,000 in 1901 and then has increased steadily. It is expected to rise strikingly from 2021 before leveling off to approximately 60,000 between 2061 and 2081. The graph indicates a slight decline in death in the year 2101. The graph shows the huge gap between birth rate and death during 1961 to 2001. However, this gap is expected to reduce in the later years. Overall, as opposed to the prevailing trends, the death rate will be more than the birth rate in the later half of the 21st century. So you see students, the answer has got the first line as introduction. The next two paragraphs is the body of the paragraph or analytical writing, and the last paragraph is the conclusion. So this is how you need to analyze the data given and write the answer. So I have put up 6 questions for you. 1 I have already done, and 5 more for you along with the answers, so that you are clear about how to write an analytical paragraph. So this is the second question. The chart shows the division of household tasks by gender in Great Britain. Write an analytical paragraph describing the chart given in not more than 150 words. Okay. So you see how it is given, students. The red ones or the red bar is showing the male and the blue represents the female. So you can very well understand, you see cooking, baking, washing up. Majority is being taken up by the females. Then we have cleaning house, tidying, gardening, pet care, care of own children and play, maintenance, jobs, then clothes washing, ironing, sewing. So all these things are given, and then we have also, you see, 30 male, 74, 30s to 74, then 13, 58, 49.5 and 21, 20, 45, 26, 9.5, isn't it? Then we have, that is your 2 and 25. So based on this data, again you have to make an answer for it. Okay, so the answer is given in the next slide. You may go through it, students. So likewise, you may read the other questions also and go through the answers as I guided you earlier also, that first, second, third questions you may go through the answers given, but for the remaining, that is question number 4, 5 and 6, try not to read the answer, but form your own answer first and then read the answer. So that will help you a lot in sharpening up your skills on how to write a good analytical paragraph. So that brings us to the last slide of my presentation. I hope this presentation will turn out to be of great help to you all, and I wish you all the best. Thank you, students.